The Weeknd's newest trilogy is finally to be complete, starting with After Hours, an absolute masterpiece and one of the most successful albums ever, followed up by Dawn FM, a great follow-up to the hype generated by After Hours. Now he's rolling out the final piece of his trilogy, an album wildly anticipated ever since he dropped this surprise tweet announcing that it will be a trilogy shortly after dropping Dawn FM. But also notably, this is his final album as The Weeknd, or so he says. He said he's told those stories he needed to tell, and this is where he's ending the whole thing. And if you look into this story that he's trying to tell with this recent trilogy and what's likely to be in this next album, he's giving away hints at what his plans are for the future, and it's pretty interesting. Recently, you might have seen it, Abel has dropped several teasers for this project, which at the time of this video that I'm making right now has no title or cover art yet, but there are some theories which I'll get into. And all these teasers previewed what the storyline of this next album is going to be. But Abel's not only using these animations to tell the story, but he's also sending out cryptic tweets to hint at certain aspects of this story. Abel is known for a while that he's going to end The Weeknd with this trilogy, so this is very planned out and it's made to tell a very specific story. So it's really important to know what he's trying to tell us, but to know this, we have to go back to the beginning. In After Hours, Abel created this character to parallel himself as The Weeknd. This character is at the peak of fame and success, but also sees the evils of it with his constant drugs, alcohol, and sex abuse. But as we enter Act 1 of this album, he experiences a heartbreak that destroys him. So despite all his successes, he finds himself alone, begging this woman to stay with him. In Act 2, when he realizes that she is gone for good, he leaves LA and heads to Vegas to party his life away. And he blames LA for causing all these issues, which falls in line with a huge part of this trilogy where he uses other things to blame and avoids taking any accountability. The story hits a fast start in Act 3 when we hit into Heartless, where he truly loses all his morals and goes deep dive headfirst into drugs, sex, and alcohol in Vegas. Each line he's pushing further and further away from any morality, and even during this, it pauses to show him getting taken away in an ambulance, likely ODing from a drug, only for him to go right back into his old ways with the song Blinding Light. The story hits an unexpected turn as we hit Act 4, where The Weeknd actually crosses paths with the woman he originally met at a party. Initially, he sees her happy without him and acknowledges that she's probably better off without him, but this character that The Weeknd is portraying is not a good one, with immediately after taking her into the back room and almost hypnotizing her into leaving her current man to go with him. He's manipulating her, telling her all these lies like he's going to settle down finally, he doesn't need all the stuff he experienced in Vegas, and he says he's finally ready to have kids with her. This severely flawed character was forced to hit rock bottom, and now he's starting to regret everything and wanting to go back to his old ways. It's unclear whether he won her back or not, but it doesn't matter because right at the end of the album, he falls over and dies. Now we enter the second album, Dawn FM, where this story continues right where After Hours left off, but this time in a purgatory state guided by the narrator Jim Carrey. This isn't a place that's heaven or hell, but it's not real life either. It's a middle state where The Weeknd is forced to come to terms with who he is. Right when we hit Act 1 and we learn about where he is, we quickly find out that The Weeknd has not learned anything from his mistake. In fact, he's gone deeper into his lack of morals and he's become a self-described nihilist. He doesn't care about anything except for whatever lust is in front of his face. While in this purgatory state, he meets this woman, and this woman is better than he could have ever expected, even better than the original woman he met in the real world. He finds himself unbelievably drawn to her, but this woman is not normal. She's very dangerous and she lives life on the edge, but that draws The Weeknd in even more. Act 2 starts with a foreshadowing tale by Quincy Jones, where he talks about having issues with his mother and his stepmother that caused him to have long-term issues that affected his adult life, where he was unable to get close to any women because of that. While this is a good interlude for this album, I think it's an underrated part of the overall scheme of the trilogy. We'll get into it more later, but I think this song specifically is foreshadowing what the third album is all about. As we go more into Act 2, The Weeknd gets more introspective, thinking about his career and what led him to this moment. After this, he tells the woman he's with that he can't get too close to her because if he does and things don't work out or she breaks his heart, he doesn't know if he can truly take it after what happened in the last album. But like clockwork, as we hit Act 3, he starts to get skeptical of this woman. He begins to wonder if she's cheating on him because he sees his old self in her. He sees the After Hours version of himself in this woman and he knows her intentions. As the song Every Angel is Terrifying ushers us into Act 4, where it possibly foreshadows the next album, Afterlife, Life, which a lot of people believe is the third album's name, but we'll have to see. In this act, the twist is very bluntly stated. The woman isn't only cheating on The Weeknd, but she's married to another man. And now we go into the song Less Than Zero, where a humbled, broken down version of The Weeknd is forced to come to terms with who he is. He's talking to not the woman in Purgatory, not the audience, but the original woman who broke his heart. He's for the first time taking full responsibility for all the issues that he caused. As for the woman in Purgatory, it's never outwardly stated, but it's likely to be assumed she's not real at all, but instead a fake depiction of The Weeknd to break his heart essentially and to purify his soul. See, Purgatory is a state where souls are made ready for heaven, and The Weeknd's soul needed purifying. He clearly was feeling some type of way after Hours, and to get into heaven, he truly needed to fix this. And now the album ends with it unclear what's happening next, but the narrator starts talking to not The Weeknd, but the audience, where he asks us some pretty deep questions about what we want to do with our lives, and basically showing this tale as almost a cautionary tale for us. Now we enter the final album from The Weeknd and the last part of this trilogy. He's now died, gone to purgatory, and fixed his soul, so now he enters the pure version of himself, which is why the main protagonist is a baby version of Abel. Before the fame and riches tainted his soul, he was just a kid with pure intentions, and he basically confirmed this by retweeting this tweet showing all the protagonists of After Hours, Dawn FM, and then now this album with a baby version of himself. Now, as far as these animations go, they give away a lot of secrets that we can decipher and kind of put together to figure out what this story is going to generally tell. The first shot is baby Abel being chased by stone monsters, which follows the narrative of past demons constantly chasing Abel. We also see baby Abel chasing a light in the sky and falling into the abyss. This leads me to believe this album will be the process of possibly going from heaven to hell, a battle between the two, or possibly a battle to go to his past self. There's also a shot of him holding a mask, which was often referenced in Dawn FM. It represents the mask he's putting up while he internally falls apart. But the way he's holding it is important in my eyes. It seems like he misses it in a way. This heavily implies that he's dealing with temptations to go back to his old self. And you can even see the older versions of him flashing in the background. This aligns with a confirmed song on the album, Take Me Back to LA, contrasting the Escape from LA from After Hours. Through all this, he's chasing a cloaked figure with the Ethiopian Orthodox cross on it. For the last trailer, we see him continue to chase the figure, but this time into the House of Balloons from his very first mixtape, with references to his older generation sprinkled throughout. You could see a reference to Starboy and Black Panther right here. He enters a clock that is going backwards in time being an important element of this album, as he tweeted, "Time ticks loud in here," implying that he could be going back in time for this album and revisiting his past selves. As he's getting consumed by the smoke that's chased him throughout, the cloaked figure is revealed to be his mother. As she holds him and protects him from the smoke, it references the painting Mother of Ethiopia from 1693. Ethiopian singer Tesfaye Gabiso created a song about this painting. This may be a shot in the dark, but this song may be included in this album in some capacity. We'll see. But as I stated earlier, this album's grand conclusion was alluded to in the Quincy Jones interlude from Dawn FM. As he talks about the importance of having a good motherly presence in his life, Abel goes back to his mother after all he's been through. And this album is all about dealing with past trauma, and they say to resolve trauma, you have to heal your inner child. That's possibly what's happening here in this third album. And for Abel's Brazil show, he previewed the next era with him dressed in the same gown that his mother was wearing, standing on the Church of St. George, an Ethiopian religious monument. Why is this significant? Well, it might allude to the fact that baby Abel starts out in the first half of the album, but maybe in the second half, it's adult version of himself. It is known that this album is going to be longer than usual, as he tweeted, "Some chapters are smaller than others, not this next one though." So this kind of alludes to that. We'll see though. Now we know what the narrative is going to be, but how is it going to sound? We know that Fades to Black, Hold Your Heart, In Heaven Everything Is Fine, Take You Back to LA, and Runaway are likely to be on this album. And based on how those sound and the overall narrative of this album, it seems like this album is going to be more drawn out, longer, grandiose style synths, contrasting the pop synth style from the first two. To add to this, he's worked a lot with producer Mike Dean lately, showing up a lot of his LA shows. Mike Dean hasn't done a lot of work on this trilogy, surprisingly, but it would make total sense for the synth god to make appearance here, as he's already a confirmed producer on Take Me Back to LA and In Heaven Everything Is Fine. And Mike Dean has a history of working on religious albums, doing a ton of work with Kanye and on Donda, which The Weeknd also appeared on. It would make total sense that this religious acceptance album would feature him. But who knows, really, this may be all wrong for all I know, but I'm just excited for the album. Thanks for watching.